I got a call on a Tuesday afternoon. The kind of call you get where you know something's wrong before the other person even speaks. It was from Elijah, my brother, not by blood, but by something a hell of a lot thicker. He'd just been told to leave a high-end car dealership. Not because he couldn't afford anything in it, but because of how he looked. Because of his faded hoodie and his dusty work truck. He stayed calm, he told me. He just walked away. But he made one call. To me. He didn't ask for a fight. He didn't want a scene. He just needed a favor. He wanted them to understand, with absolute clarity, exactly who they had just turned away. So I told him, I'll be there in 20. I'll bring the guys. What happened next wasn't loud, it wasn't violent, but it sent a shockwave through that place that they're probably still feeling today. It all started on a perfectly normal day in Thousand Oaks, California. Sun was out, sky was blue, you know the drill. My boy Elijah Ransom, one of the most solid men I've ever known, pulls into the lot of this place, Westlake European Motors. He's not there to browse. He's there to buy. He's in his old F-150, a truck that's seen more than its fair share of work and probably still has some desert sand clinging to the undercarriage from his time on base, even though he's been out for a couple of years. He's wearing what he always wears when he's not on the clock. Scuffed boots, comfortable jeans, a hoodie that's seen better days. He doesn't care about flash. He's never been that guy. He cares about substance, about what's real. And what was real to him that day was inside that glass palace. A 2024 Maserati Gran Turismo. Pure snow white with a red leather interior. It wasn't for him. It was for his wife, Jada. She'd seen it in a magazine half a year ago and got this huge, brilliant smile on her face, the kind that makes you want to move mountains. She's beautiful, she'd said. So, Elijah, being the man he is, decided to surprise her. No special occasion, no birthday, no anniversary. Just because he loves her. That's the kind of man he is. He'd done everything by the book, too. Made an appointment with a salesman, a guy named Lucas. The plan was clean, simple. Walk in, sign the papers, pay for the whole thing right then and there, and have the car delivered to their house with a big red ribbon on it by 5 o'clock. A perfect day. He gets out of his truck, head held high, not a care in the world, and starts walking toward those big, gleaming glass doors. He's about halfway across the asphalt when 2 security guards move to intercept him. You know the type. One was tall, looked like he'd swallowed a yardstick. The other was shorter, built like a fire hydrant, all chest and shoulders. The tall one steps right in his path. Sir, he says, not a question, a statement. This dealership's private. You need an appointment to be here. Now, Elijah is a Marine. Patience is something he learned the hard way. He doesn't get flustered. He just reaches into his pocket, pulls out his phone, and says, I do. I've got one at 2:15 with Lucas. He's not asking for permission. He's stating a fact. But these guys weren't listening. The bouncer type cuts him off, doesn't even glance at the phone. We've had people try that before. You'll need to leave the property. There was no let me check. No who's the appointment for? Just a command. A dismissal. Like he wasn't worth the 2 seconds it would take to verify his story. Elijah, he's not a man who likes to repeat himself, but he keeps his cool. He knows what this is about. We've all seen it 100 times. You're making a mistake, he says, his voice flat. He even holds up his phone, the confirmation email right there on the screen. I've got the email right here. Neither of them looked. They'd already made up their minds the second they saw a black man in a hoodie get out of an old pickup truck. The short one doubles down. We'll call the police if we have to. This isn't a walk-in lot. The way he said it, the tone, it was personal. It was about who Elijah was, or at least, who they thought he was based on a glance. For just a second, I know Elijah's jaw must have tightened. I've seen that look. It's the one he gets right before he goes quiet and focused. He's seen real trouble. He's faced down men with guns in places where the temperature alone can kill you. A couple of overzealous security guards playing king of the parking lot wasn't going to make him lose his composure. Making a scene never gets you anywhere, especially when you look like us. He knew that, so he just takes a step back. I'll go, he says. Then he adds, quiet but sharp, you might want to tell Lucas he lost a sale. They didn't even blink. Just stood there, watching him, like he was a threat they'd successfully neutralized. He turned around, walked back to his truck, and got in. He told me he just sat there for a minute, hands on the wheel, his heart just flat. Not angry, not yet. Just this heavy, tired feeling. And that's when he picked up the phone and called me. Derek, he said, and I heard it all in that one word. I need a favor. He didn't whine or complain. Elijah isn't built for sympathy. He's built for action. He just needed a few guys who had his back, no questions asked. I didn't hesitate. Where are you? He told me what happened. Just a dealership. Just a car. Just another one of those moments where someone looks at you and thinks they've got you all figured out. I didn't need to ask why. I just said, I'll be there in 20. I'll bring the guys. When I hung up, I made 2 more calls. One to Braden Knox, one to Alonzo March. Sterling Vance was already with me. We're all former SEALs. We come from different places, look different, but we're all bound by the same code. When one of us calls, the rest of us move. It's that simple. Elijah wasn't angry in the way most people understand it. His anger doesn't scream and break things. It gets cold. It gets quiet. It gets precise. Years in the service teach you that. When people show you their true colors, you don't waste your breath arguing. You watch. You remember. And you respond. While he was waiting for us, inside that showroom, the salesman Lucas was probably checking his watch, getting annoyed. This 2:15 appointment, this Elijah Ransom, was a no-show. A guy planning to drop that kind of cash, paying in full, doesn't just ghost you. He probably walked over to the front desk, all slick back hair and flashy suit, and asked the receptionist if anyone had checked in. She probably just shrugged, didn't even look up from her magazine, and said, "Nope, nothing on the log." The whole system was designed to miss him. Elijah just sat there in his truck, parked in a corner of the lot. He didn't want to call Jada, not yet. He couldn't bring himself to tell her that the beautiful surprise he had planned had been torpedoed by ignorance before he even got through the door. She was at home, probably thinking he was out getting milk and bread. She had no idea. By 2:33, a black Escalade rolled into that parking lot. Me, Braden, Alonzo, and Sterling. We got out. We're not a flashy crew, but we have a certain presence. We didn't need to say much. A few nods, a shared look. That's all it takes. I walked over to Elijah's F-150. He rolled down the window. I kept it simple. What happened? He laid it out, his voice still flat, controlled. They wouldn't even let me talk. Wouldn't check the appointment. Just said I didn't belong here. I looked over at Sterling, and I could see his jaw working. This some kind of private members only club now, he muttered, staring at the dealership with a look that could melt glass. Elijah opened his door and got out. He looked at us, all 4 of us, and set the rules of engagement. Let's keep it cool, he said. No threats, no noise. I just want them to understand who they turned away. Alonzo, he gets this little half smile on his face. He's always been the cool one under pressure. Then let's introduce ourselves properly, he said. So the 5 of us, we walked across that lot. It was different this time. The 2 guards were nowhere to be seen. Maybe they were on a break, or maybe they were watching us on a security camera, trying to figure out if they should call for backup. This time, nobody stood in our way. We walked right up to those double glass doors, pulled them open, and stepped inside. The air inside was cold, sterile. Music you don't really hear played softly. The whole place gleamed. It was designed to intimidate, to make you feel small if you weren't rolling in it. Lucas, the salesman, looked up from his desk, that plastic smile plastered on his face. He stood up halfway, ready to launch into his pitch. Can I help you? Elijah stepped forward, the 4 of us fanning out just a little behind him. A silent wall of support. I had a 2:15 appointment, Elijah said. You're Lucas? The salesman blinked, that smile faltering for a second. He glanced down at his tablet, probably saw the name. Mr. Ransom? That's right, Elijah said. And you could see it on Lucas's face the moment the penny dropped. He flinched. I'm sorry, no one told me you were here. The receptionist still wasn't looking up. Elijah's voice was calm, but it cut right through the showroom's quiet hum. She didn't mention I was here, he said, because I got turned away in the parking lot. I took a slow, deliberate look around the place. At the polished cars, the marble counters, the whole 9 yards. I looked back at Lucas. This your whole sales approach? Block appointments before they even hit the door? The color just drained from the guy's face. He looked at the front desk, then up at the security monitors on the wall, and you could see him connecting the dots in real time. The blood left his face so fast he looked like a ghost. I'll get the manager, he stammered, and then he practically bolted toward an office in the back. While he was gone, Alonzo walked over to the Maserati. He read the little plaque next to it. Beautiful car, he said, looking at Elijah. She'll love it. Elijah didn't answer. He was just scanning the room, taking it all in. A few other employees were peeking out of their offices now, like prairie dogs, sensing the weather had changed. Then the manager appeared, a guy in a suit that was a little too tight, hair slicked back with too much product. His name tag read Darren K., Sales Director. He came out with this big, fake corporate smile pasted on his face. Gentlemen, he said, like we were all there for a friendly chat. What seems to be the problem? Elijah didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. I had an appointment. I was here early. 2 of your guards stopped me in the lot, told me to leave. Didn't ask for my name, didn't check for an appointment. Just told me I didn't belong. Darren's eyes did a quick up and down of Elijah's clothes. The hoodie, the jeans. It was subtle, but we all saw it. I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding, he said, his voice slick with practiced apology. Security's had a few incidents lately. They've been asked to be extra cautious. Sterling, who'd been quiet until now, stepped forward just a bit, crossing his arms. He's an imposing guy even when he's relaxed. Cautious of what? He asked, his voice low. Guys in hoodies with confirmed appointments? Darren's smile got wider, more strained. No one's accusing anyone of anything. Let's all just calm down. Elijah just looked at him. We are calm, he replied. You're the one sweating. And he was. Little beads of sweat were popping up on his high forehead. The pressure was just starting to build, and it wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be sharp, and it was going to be precise. Darren was still trying to play damage control, like a guy trying to fix a burst pipe with a roll of paper towels. If there was any miscommunication, he said, gesturing vaguely toward the front of the store, we'll address it. I'm happy to personally assist you, Mr. Ransom. But it was too late for that. Elijah wasn't interested in being assisted anymore. He looked around that showroom again, at the polished floors and the marble desk that might as well have had a sign on it that said, we only serve a certain kind of person. It wasn't a place for dreams, it was a place for calculations. They calculate your worth the second you walk in the door. Braden, who's usually the quietest of all of us, leaned in toward Elijah. We can walk out right now, he said, just loud enough for Darren to hear, and call someone who actually cares. Elijah gave a slow, deliberate nod. Yeah, he said, we're done here. That's when Darren started to panic. The sale was walking out the door, and he knew this was bigger than just one car. Wait, Mr. Ransom, he said, practically lunging. I'll throw in a service package. Top tier. 3 years. Elijah just looked at him with this dead-eyed calm. You think this is about floor mats and oil changes? Darren fumbled. No, of course not. I'd hate for this to escalate into something it doesn't need to be. That's when Braden let out this low, cold chuckle that made the air in the room drop about 10 degrees. What do you think this is going to escalate into? Darren took a step back. I'm just saying, we don't want this to go public. And there it was. The truth. He wasn't worried about how they treated a Marine veteran, a paying customer. He was worried about optics. He was worried about a PR nightmare. Elijah let out a long, slow breath. You've got a bigger problem than this going public, he said. You've got a culture issue. People here judge before they even speak. Darren's jaw was twitching now. I'll speak with the guards. They'll be disciplined. That's when I stepped in. Not your call anymore, I said. Someone else will be having that conversation. And with that, the 5 of us turned and walked out. The silence we left behind was heavier and louder than any argument could have ever been. Back at the truck, nobody said much for a minute. Elijah got in, but didn't start the engine. He just sat there, his jaw tight. I didn't want to have to call you guys for this, he said, his voice rough. I looked at him through the open window of the Escalade. We didn't show up for this dealership, man, I told him. We showed up for you. I saw that land. It hit him harder than anything that happened in that showroom. He leaned his head back against the seat and rubbed the scar on his wrist, a little souvenir from Kandahar. He got that a long time ago, but moments like this, they bring it all back. There's a reason I don't lose it in moments like that, he said, more to himself than to us. Because I've seen real chaos. I've seen men scream for their mothers while bleeding out in places nobody can find on a map. Sterling was quiet for a second, then he said something that hit the nail right on the head. That's exactly why they're afraid of you. Elijah looked at him, confused. What do you mean? You don't come in yelling and screaming, Sterling explained. You come in steady, controlled. People like that, he nodded back at the dealership. They don't know what to do with a man who doesn't feel the need to prove himself. He was right. They expected a confrontation they could control, that they could label as aggressive and dismiss. They didn't get one. They got something much more unnerving: quiet dignity. Alonzo, ever the problem solver, was already on his phone. "I got a friend in Santa Monica," he said. "Runs a private luxury dealership. Family owned. No pretenses. You want to take a drive?" Elijah didn't answer right away. He was looking back at the dealership. Through the glass, he could see Lucas, the salesman, just staring out at us, his face a blank mask. Then, Elijah turned the key. The F-150 rumbled to life. "Let's go," he said. But before we pulled out, I made a call. I knew this wasn't over. Darren was worried about bad press. He had no idea what was actually coming. The ripple effect from that one moment was about to spread, and it was going to be handled by people who operate on a whole different level. The number I called doesn't go to voicemail. Ever. A voice answered on the first ring, sharp and efficient. Colonel Winters. It was a voice that commanded respect without ever having to raise its volume. "It's Fallon," I said. "We've got a situation. Need a few eyes on a private dealership in Thousand Oaks. Name's Westlake European Motors." There was a brief pause, just the faint sound of keys clicking on a keyboard. "Who's involved?" she asked. "Elijah Ransom." Another pause, but shorter this time. A flicker of recognition. "Understood," she said. "Give me 20 minutes." I hung up. None of us needed to ask what that meant. We had all served under Rebecca Winters. She wasn't flashy. She didn't make threats. But when she decided to move, things just happened. The board was set. The pieces were in motion. We drove out of that lot, the Escalade leading the way, Elijah's truck right behind us. The silence on the drive to Santa Monica wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of practiced quiet you find between men who have seen things, who have been through the fire together. Sometimes you don't need to talk. We got to Santa Monica in under an hour. Alonzo pointed to this modest little showroom, tucked between a surf shop and a vegan joint. The sign was simple, matte silver letters, Monarch Motor House. It was classy, but it wasn't screaming for attention. The second we walked in, it was a different world. The guy behind the desk was in his late 50s. His face had that look of someone who spends time in the sun, and his sleeves were rolled up like he'd just come from working on an engine. He looked up, and his eyes smiled before his mouth did. "Elijah Ransom," he said, standing up to greet him. "You've got some friends who really believe in you." Elijah looked surprised. "I'm Gabe Navarro," the man said, shaking his hand firmly. "We served at different times, but I knew who you were the moment Alonzo called. Said you were trying to surprise your wife." And right there, for the first time all afternoon, Elijah broke into a genuine smile. "I've got just the thing," Gabe said. "Follow me." He led us past some beautiful cars, Teslas and Bentleys, to the back of the showroom. And there it was. Under a soft spotlight sat the Maserati. Same model, same snow-white paint, same red leather interior. It was perfect. "She's yours if you want her," Gabe said. "And no one's asking what you're wearing." Elijah laughed, a real, honest laugh. "What's the catch?" he asked. "No catch," Gabe said. "You pay what we discussed over the phone. We deliver it by 5, ribbon and all. The only thing I ask, when she sees it, you tell her the truth. Tell her the whole story. It matters." Elijah nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "It does." Meanwhile, back in Thousand Oaks, Colonel Winters was making her moves. She doesn't have an official title anymore, no uniform to wear. But real power, lasting power, isn't about a badge. It's about a reputation. It's about having a phone full of people who will drop everything and answer your call, because they know you're a person of integrity. By 4:15 p.m., a flagged report landed on the desk of the regional manager for Westlake's parent company. It was clinical, precise. It stated that 2 guards at their Thousand Oaks location had forcibly removed a former Marine with a confirmed, prepaid appointment. The report didn't yell. It didn't threaten. It just asked a simple, devastating question. Are these your standards? By 4:30, the dealership's owner was on the phone with Darren, his voice ice cold. What the hell happened over there? Darren tried to stammer out his excuses about misunderstandings and overzealous security. The owner cut him off. "You're the floor manager, Darren. The buck stops with you." Silence. But silence wasn't going to save his job this time. Just as the sun was starting to set, a black Suburban with tinted windows and no plates pulled into the dealership lot and parked right in the fire lane. Nobody inside the showroom moved. The door opened, and a woman stepped out. Slender, late 40s, a sharp blazer, a little gray in her hair. But it was her walk. The walk of someone who never has to ask for permission. Colonel Rebecca Winters. She walked into that dealership like she owned it. The receptionist shot to her feet, not sure what to do. "Is Darren here?" Winters asked, her voice calm as a frozen lake. The receptionist just nodded. "Don't worry," Winters said, walking right past her, her heels making a single, sharp click on the polished floor with every step. "He knows I'm coming." She didn't need us. She wasn't backup. She was the backup. She found Darren and Lucas in the sales office. Darren was already standing, looking like a kid outside the principal's office. He tried to offer her a handshake. She ignored it. "I'm not here for introductions," she said. "I'm here to make sure this doesn't happen again." Darren started in on his prepared speech. "We've reviewed the footage, I assure you," she cut him off. "I don't need your footage. I spoke to the man. And I've known him longer than you've had this job." Lucas looked like he was about to say something, maybe defend himself, but he thought better of it and shut his mouth. Winters dropped a single sheet of paper on Darren's desk. It was a printout of Elijah's appointment confirmation. "He had every right to be here," she said. "He came to spend his money. He left humiliated. So you tell me, what part of that is an acceptable business practice?" "We're addressing it," Darren mumbled. "I've already written up the guards." Winters just shook her head, almost disappointed. "You don't get it. This wasn't about 2 guards. This was about a system, a culture, one that you either created or you allowed to exist." His face went red. "We can't control what every single employee does, but you can control how you respond," she countered. "And so far, your response has been weak." And then, a surprise. Lucas, the salesman, spoke up. He didn't look like the kind of person who'd be buying a Maserati, he said, his voice barely a whisper. The room went dead silent. Darren stared at him, horrified. Winters just looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Exactly," she said. She straightened her blazer. "Here's how this is going to go. You will issue a formal, public apology. Not some vague corporate statement. An actual apology, to Mr. Ransom by name. You will review your access and guest policies. And the guards? They're not suspended. They're fired. Today." Darren stammered. "You don't have the authority to fire my people." She paused at the door. "No, I don't," she said without turning around. "But I know 5 people who sit on your dealership's parent company board. One of them is my sister." And then she was gone. Back in Santa Monica, the Maserati was on a flatbed, ready to go. Gabe handed Elijah an envelope. Inside was a note. "Some things can't be fixed, but they can be answered. GN." Elijah smiled at that. He never wanted revenge. He just wanted things to be set right. His phone buzzed. It was Jada. "Hey," she said, "you still at the store?" He looked at the truck pulling away, her dream car strapped to the back. "Yeah," he said. "I'll be home soon." She had no idea what was rolling toward her, or the story that came with it. The next morning, the dealership posted an apology. It was buried on their website, full of weasel words like "regret any inconvenience" and "reviewing our internal procedures." No names, no ownership. They thought that would be the end of it. They were wrong. Someone inside that dealership, an employee who saw the whole thing, sent the raw security footage to a local journalist. No commentary, just the video file and a note. This is how they treat paying customers. It was short, silent, and absolutely damning. It showed Elijah, calm and respectful. It showed the guards, dismissive and accusatory. It showed him being turned away for no reason. Within hours, it was everywhere. It went viral not because it was loud, but because it was quiet. The quiet injustice of it all. People saw his composure, his dignity, and it resonated. By noon, news vans were camped outside Westlake European Motors. Darren was pacing inside, a nervous wreck. Lucas was just staring at his phone, watching his career implode. A screenshot of an internal staff group chat surfaced, them mocking Elijah's clothes, his truck. It was ugly. Darren knew it was over. He wasn't salvageable. He was the face of the scandal. That afternoon, Elijah was at home, on the back porch with Jada. The car was in the driveway. She had cried when she saw it, not just for the gift, but for the story he told her, the one Gabe insisted he share. She put her head on his shoulder. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm tired," he said. From the drive. From the reminders. The reminder that no matter what you achieve, no matter what you build, Some people will only ever see the surface. He told her he almost didn't call me, that he almost just came home defeated. Why didn't you? She asked. He took a long breath. Because part of me still wants the world to change, he said. And I knew if I came home and stayed quiet, nothing would. Later that night, Colonel Winters got another call, this time from the CEO of the parent company. He wasn't calling to make excuses. He was calling to ask for advice. What should we do? He asked. She didn't pull any punches. Start over, she said. Replace the people who treat your customers like auditions. Stop hiring managers who only care about bad headlines. He asked if she thought the story would fade. No, she said, because this wasn't just a story. It was a reminder. The footage kept spreading. A retired judge reposted it, calling it Dignity Under Pressure. The name Elijah Ransom was trending, not because he wanted fame, but because his quiet strength had demanded attention. The company's headquarters in Dallas called an emergency meeting. The CEO was blunt. This is a company reckoning. They sent a team of executives to California. They walked into that dealership, went straight to Darren's office, and fired him on the spot. They showed him the video, the chat logs. It wasn't a mistake, it was a culture. And he was its keeper. Lucas was put on leave, pending an investigation. The next day, the dealership sign was covered in a black tarp. Their website was scrubbed clean. A few days later, Elijah got a call from a Reverend Miles Owens who ran a community center for veterans. He said Elijah's story had inspired a lot of the young guys. You're not just a man in a video, the Reverend told him. You're a mirror, and they're seeing themselves in you. Elijah just sat on his porch, Jada beside him. You're a little quieter tonight, she said. He paused for a long time. You keep saying that. Because it keeps happening, Jay, he said finally. She didn't have to ask what it was. She just leaned her head on his shoulder. The dealership eventually reopened. The guards were gone. Darren was gone. His office was empty. We heard he signed an NDA and a voluntary resignation. Elijah went back to Monarch Motor House, not to buy anything, but just to say thanks to Gabe. Gabe gave him a certificate for 5 years of free car detailing. Give it to someone else who needs it, he said. Someone who needs to be reminded they're welcome. One of the most powerful things to come out of it was a handwritten letter Colonel Winters received from a young intern at the dealership. It just said, I saw what happened. I didn't stop it, but I wanted to, and now I will. Redemption isn't always a grand gesture. Sometimes it's a quiet promise. A couple of weeks later, Elijah arranged for Monarch Motor House to deliver another car, this one to a young single mother and new EMT who was taking 3 buses to get to work. He paid for it in full, anonymously. The dealership just told her it was from someone who believes in paying things forward. That's Elijah. He doesn't want credit. He wants change. Quiet change. The Maserati is just a car now. It gets groceries. It has fingerprints on the windows from the neighbors' kids. It's part of their life. One night, Jada asked him, You regret not staying silent? He shook his head. I regret not asking sooner how many times other people went through the same thing and just walked away. That weekend, Elijah went to that community center in East Pasadena. No cameras, no fanfare, just a circle of folding chairs. He told his story, but only after he'd listened to theirs. A young kid, maybe 23, said, I used to think silence was safe, but it's just heavy. Elijah looked at him and said, You're right. Speaking up doesn't always fix the system, but it lets people know they're not invisible. Last week, the 5 of us, me, Elijah, Braden, Alonzo, and Sterling, were in his backyard, around a fire pit. Just talking, laughing, being brothers. Sterling looked into the fire. Crazy how one moment, he said, just a regular Tuesday, can end up meaning so much. Elijah just shrugged. I didn't plan it. I just didn't want to walk away and feel small. I looked at him. You didn't, I said. You walked away and built something bigger than pride. Braden raised his bottle. To walking away the right way, he said. We all clinked bottles. Elijah sat back, and I saw the look on his face. It wasn't anger. It wasn't bitterness. It was responsibility. Because the truth is, people are always watching. Even when you're just trying to get through your day. And when they see someone meet ugliness with calm and disrespect with dignity, it makes them stop and think. It makes them ask themselves what they would do. And that's it. That's where real change starts. Not with the shouting and the outrage, but with quiet reflection, followed by deliberate action. So if you've ever felt like you were overlooked, or judged, or made to feel small, just remember Elijah. Remember that you don't have to scream to be heard. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stand your ground, stay composed, and let the truth do the talking for you. Because quiet strength, true strength, has an echo that lasts a hell of a lot longer than noise.